there's so many clients out there in need, and the people who I work with the best are not going to be the people you work with the best. I have to find my 1,000 people, my tribe, and you need to find yours. And there's not going to be that much overlap. So I don't worry about giving away all my secrets, or, I don't worry. I'm not up at night worrying about, oh, did that person get that client that I really wanted? It never feels that way to me. It feels like abundance. It feels like there's just tons of people out there needing writing, which is amazing.
I think that's a beautiful mindset, and you're 100% authentic with this. I love that. Michael Seville, one of my best friends, he was telling me on one occasion, because I was so concerned. I had written out my philosophies and I put them on LinkedIn, and this was like kind of my start, PAM management and rock movers. And also I was teaching a story of how to let go. If it fits, it ships, and all these different little philosophies, and don't spill coffee syndrome, And so I'm like teaching all these different philosophies, and all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, oh no, I haven't made it yet. Somebody's going to come and snatch up all my stuff, and they're going to use it, and then I won't have anything.
Right.
And Mike's like, no, it doesn't really even matter, because when it all comes down to it, it's really whoever can use the information the best. And the thing about it is nobody's going to be able to use it the way you use it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. And, there are reasons to be concerned about your ideas being stolen. I think plagiarism is kind of rampant in the internet world, and it's sort of unfortunate. But you're absolutely right that it's not just that statement. It's not just that philosophy. It's about so much that goes into that. And, when people are buying, people always say, people don't buy your product, they buy you, right? They're buying you. So it's really is, you've got to find that connection with people. And nobody can connect with people on the same level that you do. It's different, even if they have your words, right? They don't necessarily have that connection that you make with people. So yeah, I think that's a really important lesson to take home.
So I want to go back to something else you said, because you mentioned something, and I appreciate you, the agreement with that message, and that is, I believe that mentors should be mentored as they mentor a mentee. Mm-hmm. And so I'm listening to you, and I'm like, wow, because one of the things that you said, if somebody was able, even if you taught them yourself, an apprentice, even if you taught them yourself, and they were able to go out and find their tribe, that would be an amazing feat. Mm-hmm. That would be awesome. Do you have somebody that mentors you, or that you, whether it's from a distance or whether it's up close?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of mentors throughout my business life, throughout my academic life. Although I would say that sometimes I wish I had more mentors back then, because I think that might have helped me get further, go in the direction I was trying to go. But yeah, the woman who first gave me my start, who took me on as her intern, her name is Erica Dickstein, and her company is Spring Insight in Washington, D.C. She's based in Washington, D.C. She was amazing. I got on the call with her for my interview, and she said, "What kind of marketing do you like?" And I said, "I don't know, advertising." I didn't know there were different kinds of marketing. And essentially during that interview, she gave me a kind of masterclass about marketing, and it was incredible. And I was like, wow, that's so generous. And for the most part, what I found going from academia to the business world is how generous people are. I'll meet you at a networking event, and then that person will go and refer me to somebody the next day, and I think that's just incredible and so fun. And so I'm always thinking about kind of, repaying that favor or paying it forward, I suppose. I'm always on the lookout for people to connect with other people. I'm always thinking about, I get tons of requests for writing that I don't want to do, not the types of stuff that I do. And I am more than happy to send them to other ghostwriters, send them to other people who I think might be a better fit. So yeah, I mean, I find mentors at all levels, up and down the train. I would say I am all about learning from other people, and making sure that I'm being a good mentor and learning from the best as well. So I totally agree with you that mentors need mentors too. When I first started my business, I went to SCORE, and I had some SCORE mentors, and that was very helpful. Just kind of getting my feet wet, writing a business plan, figuring out, kind of thinking long term about where I want to be. Um, all of that was helpful. I think the best thing about having a mentor is that their perspective is the big picture, right? They can kind of pull you out of your day-to-day stuff, and have you kind of focus on the bigger picture. And you have to do that sometimes with your business, or you'll just get buried in client work. So yeah.
Powerful words.
Mhm.
Powerful words, and I think that's probably the reason why we're seeing like the rise of coaches right now.
Yes. Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely a place for them. Don't get me wrong, because some of the greatest that we never really realized that Michael Jordan had his own, personal coach. I mean, those that were following in the NBA. But if you just looked at these players from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, well, he's got that coach right there, that's on the side of the basketball court. That's, head
Mhm.
coach and defensive coach, and probably
Yep.
a couple other people. But we didn't realize that some of the greats had their own personalized coach. And then
Yeah.
after they got off the court, they went back and they did even more. And that
Right.
some of these huge CEOs have got consultants coming in
Yep.
there and feeding them information. Now, the
Right.
CEO is being known for everything that they've done.
Yep. Yep.
Is this called ghost coaching?
Might be that we might have coined a new term. I like it. No, it's really true. I had a business coach when I first started. She was another great mentor of mine. I have mixed feelings about the sort of flood and predominance of coaching. I think, there are some amazing coaches out there, and when you find one, gosh, hold on to them, because I think among the sea of coaches, there's also a lot of coaches who aren't really worth the money that you're paying them, and you have to be really discerning to figure out, who's really going to help me, and what do I really need. I've had the most success, I think, with very specific coaching. Like, I have a hiring coach. I'm hiring people, so I want to make sure that I'm going to be a good manager. I need to know all the steps of hiring and recruiting and onboarding and training, and even firing and exiting if that needs to happen. So I've hired a coach to help me through all that, and I think that was a really good move, because I know that being a manager is really important. Being a good manager is really important to the success of a team. And yeah, I can run my business by myself, but how do I get a team together and make sure that they're working, as efficiently as possible? That's a whole different can of worms, it seems to me. So yeah, I think that would be my biggest piece of advice about coaching, is just look for someone who has the specific skills that you need in the moment, rather than like a global business coach, just sort of coach you through everything.
Kind of like a Liam Neeson Taken type of guy. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right.
Is that what we're talking
Somebody, a
about?
specialist. Yeah, a specialist. That's what you need. Something like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a great movie that was.
It was, yeah. Love Liam Neeson, yeah.
I mean, and that's what we're looking for, I think, when it
Mhm.
comes down to that. But kind of getting back, to, I guess, Erica and how she helped set you up for the
Yeah.
success that you have. That was like perfect timing. But it wasn't just that she helped set you up. I mean, you know, you can be served the ball, but it doesn't mean that you'll always make contact, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was you who made the contact, and then not just the contact, but the commitment that followed after it to play that game out.
Yeah, definitely. that's the other thing about the coaching that people don't always realize is, the success in the end comes back to you, and how much of the work you're putting in and how committed you are to the process, and, all of these things. And that's really the bottom line. So whenever I, have worked with coaches in the past, there have been times when I think to myself, could I have done this on my own? Maybe it would have taken me longer or something like that. But it's important to realize, like, sometimes I think we do some things in our businesses out of desperation because we're stuck and we're trying to get unstuck. And so we're like, I'm going to hire this person and that will get me unstuck. And I think that that's the time to make these kinds of decisions is not when you're stuck. Think hard and carefully about your mentors and, your coaches, and maybe you can find a mentor who can help you, and you don't really need a coach. You just need somebody to poke you with some mindset tricks or some, once in a while, or you need some accountability. A friend can lend you accountability. You don't necessarily need to pay someone for accountability. So I think there's just a lot of things to consider when it comes to mentors, coaches, all of that stuff. And to remember that ultimately everything comes down to you. So maybe, do you have a commitment problem? Do you have a motivation problem? Right? It's tough to diagnose these things for ourselves. But I think if you're in the wrong mindset, it can just look like, let me just grab onto this thing because that's I'm sure this is going to fix my problem. And those decisions almost never pan out for me personally when I make decisions from those moments of desperation.
Yes, I agree. And I think that, listening to your story, one thing that I would love for our audience to take away from this was that you chose to separate yourself for one complete year. As you were building this thought process, there was a lot of things that had to have been happening during that year. I mean, I know that you stated you saved money, and that you were conquering at least one fear, the fear of not knowing what you could do. So those are two prolific things that you actively admitted to doing. But I wonder if you could tell the audience some of the other things that you did that really prepared you for the coaching or for the mentoring that you got from Erica, because that's really what it takes. Even when you talk to a coach, sometimes they say, are you coachable? Because somebody who's really good at what they do, they want to know if you're able to open up, if you're able to receive, and if you're able to act.
Yes. That openness, I would call that openness to the opportunities, is so important. I think, as much as I was afraid of failure during that first year, I was also really optimistic. I was feeling, like I'm going to figure this out. Where I was so bad that I don't have a choice but to figure something else out. And it might not be this thing, maybe it's not going to be marketing or whatever, but I'm going to figure out something new. And I trusted myself enough during that year that I trusted myself to figure it out, basically. And so I kind of, always knew that somehow it was going to be okay. I figured worst case scenario, I would just go and find a job. And I was okay with that outcome if that's what it was going to be. But I just knew that I couldn't keep going down the track I was on, and I needed to change direction. So I think the openness was one thing that was really important during that year. I do think having, it's funny because I think of myself very much as an introvert. I'm very introverted. I don't get a lot, being around other people, doing podcasts like this, doing networking events is a real energy drain for me. It takes a lot of energy for me to do this kind of thing. And I think I was really surprised at how easily I found networking in the business world to be. So I really built my business by in-person networking and getting referrals from other people. And so that ability to sort of I don't know, set myself up in a way to have conversations with people. My curiosity, I have a really natural curiosity about me, really helped me figure out, where am I going? What's the next move? And I learned so much from people. That was another way that people in the business world were so generous with their time. I had people say to me, "Oh, don't read that book. Let me give you the 10-minute 10-minute summary. Let me give you the Cliff's notes. Oh, don't do that. Here. This is a better thing to do." I got a lot of free advice that was really good advice, and coming from a really authentic place, where I felt really supported in what I was trying to do. And having all of that just also made me believe that, oh, I guess I can do this. I think running into people who believed in me and thought that what I was doing was cool, just gave me a lot of confidence that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
And that was going to be my next question. There was a lot of powerful statements in what you just said. This is kind of what I took out of that. First thing was, self-belief, and developing that self-belief that you could actually do whatever it was, even if you didn't know what it was yet.
Yeah.
But just developing that belief that when I figured this out, I got this.
Right. Yeah.
And then the pursuit of your desire, your passion, not giving up, giving yourself ample amount of time, but then not just wasting it,
Right.
asking those hard questions day by day, opening yourself up. And that made a difference for you, because it brought, the next thing you said brought you back to self-belief, which was learning from other people, or from people that had more knowledge, had more wisdom, had more strengths in whatever area that was than you did at that very moment, even if it was just in a mindset shift, or just being able to see someone who was already doing it, but being more open to them because you're pursuing your own desire, your own passion. It gave you an opportunity, because now you're talking about it. One of the things that I tell people, I'm like, listen, you should absolutely tell people what you desire to do.
Yep.
I got the remarks back, no, you never tell anyone. Well, I said, well, why?
Yeah.
They said, well, because if you fail, then you have to go back and you have to let everybody know. You have to do the walk of shame.
Right.
And I understand that, because we have this fear about ourselves of not being successful in whatever we plan on doing, but we don't truly fail until we've given up. When we do share with other people what we desire to do, those that mean us no good, they will show themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing, right?
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
now I know I don't need to be around you anymore.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Right. Yes. Thank you for making that clear. Yes. Right.
You said something like that. That was part of your fear in networking. And you didn't actually say it, but this is what I took from it. That there was a little bit of a fear in networking because you're an introvert. So am I.
Yes.
Most people don't realize it because of the way I speak,
right,
the way I act. Right. But when I realized I can just go out there and be myself,
yes,
and people will actually like me for who I am.
Yes. That's not hard. Yeah. That's what I say too. Exactly right. And when you're a good listener, as most introverts are, people love talking to good listeners. You hardly have to talk at all. You just ask them a question, and then you keep asking them questions, and eventually they'll ask you a question, and you'll be able to answer because you're in a conversation now. So yeah, I think I was really worried about networking in the beginning, and it was awkward. It can be awkward, still awkward sometimes. But I always try to go in with what am I going to get out of this? I want to get something out of this. I'm just going to go in with a good attitude and, meet some people. It'll be fun. I never put a lot of pressure on myself. Oh, I got to meet 10 clients, that makes it miserable. But if I just go in looking to learn what I can learn from people, it's always a good time. And I totally agree with you about talking about what you're doing 100%. I tell people who are writing books, talk about your book. bring it up every time you get a chance. Talk about what you're writing, because that's when people are going to give you the feedback. People think, oh, I got to have the book finished before I can get feedback. No, you should get feedback from the very beginning, because that's going to change your perspective on what you're writing. And it can change it in really beautiful ways. If you can't explain a concept, or if you explain a concept and someone's confused, then you need to go back to the drawing board. And so I think, looking for those moments where you can talk about what you're doing, whether it's your book you're writing, or the business you want to start, or you want to be a speaker and you haven't done any speaking yet. You never know where someone's going to say, oh, let me introduce you to somebody, or, oh, I've got an idea for you. There's no negative, there's no drawbacks to talking about it. I mean, yeah, you worry that you might not make it. And, I see people all the time make the announcement, like, I'm going to finish my book by some date. And, inevitably they're writing 3 months later, I didn't finish my book, and there's really no reason to do that. People aren't keeping a list of what you said you're going to do. They don't remember. They'll cheer you on once you're finished. Just all you have to do is talk about it when you're done. And yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think we worry. We always think that people are paying way more attention to us than they actually are, and that just puts a lot of pressure on us when it's not necessary.
I agree with you. I think that's just, and it's amazing because we're going through these motions, right? Day by day. It's like happening to us. It's happening to us right now. And we don't even recognize it sometimes, which you mentioned also earlier about finding that right mentor, that right coach, that right pastor, that right priest, that right big brother or mom or dad or next door neighbor. It's really about whoever has the ability to lend their ear. And when they speak, they can speak from a place of compassion, education, experience, and love.
Yes.
And I think that makes a difference, because even if they don't have all of those components, as long as they're giving it from a very positive standpoint, a place where you can benefit, then it's all good.
Right. I think that's really key, because it's easy sometimes to find people who can knock us down, but the people who are supportive are really the ones you want in your camp. If it's somebody who, you wouldn't take advice from them outside of your business, why would you take advice from them inside your business, right? You want to work with, you want to talk to people and listen to people who you respect, and, who've earned your trust. So, that's always key. And you have to be careful, because I think starting a business, it's almost like becoming a parent. People start giving you all kinds of unsolicited advice all the time. They hear the name of your business and they've got 14 opinions about that. And you're like, thanks, I didn't need your, I've already made up my mind. This is the name, not a good time for advice. So, you have to be really clear about your boundaries, I think, when it comes to getting advice, taking advice.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And just like you mentioned with parenting, I mean, the exact same thing applies, right? It's like,
Right.
hey, guess what? I'm having a child. Like, oh, come here. Let me tell you something about those kids.
Yes.
What? Ah,
Yeah.
ah, ah.
Yeah. It will really mess with your head if you're not careful. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, you're awesome. You're
Thanks
awesome.
so much. Yeah.
All right. Well, there was a lot of beautiful, beautiful nuggets that came through here, and I'm sure that there's going to be ghostwriters, writers, many women as well as men, and hopefully young people also, that will gain something and benefit something from what you've shared today. I've enjoyed this conversation. So tell me, how can people get in contact with you if they need a ghostwriter?
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it as well. You can find me on my website, which is thepocketphd.com. That's where you can find out all about my services, ghostwriting, LinkedIn services, etc. And then I'm always on LinkedIn. That's the easiest place to message me if you want to send me a message. And I am there at Emily Crookston.
That is awesome. Let me see something here. Spell Pocket PhD,
Yeah,
POCKET.
yeah, it's actually the Pocket PhD.
I missed
.com.
the Pocket
Yep.
PhD.com. Boom. There we go. And let's do that real quick for the people that are viewing. There it is.
Thank you. Yes.
It's the Pocket
There's my
PhD.
pop-up.
So,
Yeah,
all right.
that's me.
Yeah. All right. So everyone can check you out here. And Emily, what would you like to share with anyone? Final words.
Final words. I'll say, there's no better time than today to start doing the things that you love. I think for a long time, I had this in my head, like, I'll be happy when X, Y, and Z happens. Today I'm miserable, but I'll be happy then. And then at some point I just said, wait a minute, what if I'm happy right now? What if I make myself happy right now? And you can, even if the situation sucks, you can find ways to, change your attitude about it. You can find ways to be happy in the moment. I think that's just the key. That's the key. And if you are miserable and you have the power to change it, then it's time to change it up.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Emily. I can't wait to speak with you again. Of course, you're invited back to the show whenever we get back together again and hear some of your great stories again and your wisdom as well.
Love it. Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Emily.
Bye.
So there you have it. Emily, the ghostwriter of ghostwriters, the ghostwriter of Rebels, Renegades, and Mavericks. But as I said, the ghostwriter of ghostwriters. Not to say any of the rest of the ghostwriters out there aren't as good. I'm just putting my hat in the ring with Emily. I can be biased. I like her, and she does well, and she's like real, authentic. Yeah, she has a great conversation. She's extremely smart, and she knows where she's heading, and she knows how to help you get where you need to be. There's a lot of other things that you'll learn by working with her, and there's a lot of things that we had an opportunity to learn here. Like just in this whole thing about self-belief, or this whole thing about mindset shift and being able to achieve those things that you're looking to achieve, even when the forecast is foggy, you can't see the city because of the buildings. What can I do? What can you do? Well, one thing that Emily did is she just kind of stopped everything. She built up enough savings to be able to process her thoughts, to declutter her lifestyle, to declutter her mind. And then she actively pursued her desire, her passion. Even when she didn't know exactly what that was, she found a way to believe even more deeply inside of herself, and she invested in herself. She enriched herself. She conquered her fear of not knowing exactly what it was that she could do. And then what did she do? She opened herself up to receive. And that's a big thing because many times we don't do that. But she began to learn from other people as she began to explain what she thought it was that she may be able to do. And when it happened, when the opportunity presented itself, she had prepped herself so well during the course of that year that the minute her mentor told her what she was doing, she was able to find that it fit perfectly in her heart, in her mind, and she was able to latch on to it. And now she's doing amazing. So remember, no matter where you are, follow those steps that Emily gave us, because as much as it starts with you, it starts with me. Peace.